Alright, well here I have Redditor Model Studio open. I got the latest one because the second latest one from yesterday had a bug. I was trying to teach my crewers how to dance, but somebody said, how do you make a grunt with a frog's head? And this seems like we should be able to do that. So let's actually go to the grunt and let's check it out. So here's a grunt. Okay, here's a grunt. Cool, so that's your standard grunt. Now, can we go in here and delete his head? And we should be able to do that. I don't know if we'll be able to use all the features because the Reforged models usually crash some of these, like group selecting. Yep, it's crashed the group selecting things. And it kind of messes up that thing. But you can still do select by vertex at least, which ought to let us select his head and try to get rid of it. So we're going to try to do that. And it looks like I got his shoulder, so let's try again. Okay, a little of that, a little of this. The other thing we might want to do is do some of that, you know. Get some of that. I wonder if his shoulder's on a separate geoset, you know. Do you think we could get like the shoulder pad? Yeah, like that one, we can hide. So by hiding these, I'll make sure I don't delete them. That's my thought process. So I thought, what if I just go through these things and try to make sure I don't delete whatever they are. There's a piece of shoulder. Problem is there are a whole bunch of similar pieces on top of each other, so it can be really difficult to figure out exactly what is and isn't what you want. Then, for example, I was using Control E to expand selection, and it selected too much. So sometimes that happens, and that can be really annoying too. So now I pretty much just have his head selected. You can see there's a little bit more than just his head, but it's mostly getting close to being just his head. Trying to make sure there's nothing else in there. Looks like there's something over there. Looks like we got a little bit of his neck. I kind of wonder if I invert the selection and then Control E it, can I make sure I only have his head? There we go. That is definitely only his head. So we got his head and only his head, and I deleted it. So he should just be without a head if we go back to the real. This is the previewer that I really fixed for Reforged is this one. So this is really like the good previewer. Okay, great. So that's our grunt. And now if we just go to neutral passive over here and we get frog, let's try to get the frog head, which we should be able to import onto the grunt. Now, one question you have to ask yourself is, do you want the frog to still have these little animations? You know, it's got some interesting stand and stand var1. Not entirely sure of the difference. But it is animated. You know, it's an animated frog head. And so a person could go in there and try to actually keep it animated when you stick it on the grunt. But obviously that's a little bit more difficult. We could try to do that though. So in order to do that, one thing we want to do is probably delete all the legs for sure. That should generally let us just get rid of all that. Maybe it looks like there's a little bit of extra stuff in here that didn't get selected. I don't know exactly what that is, but yeah, if we just try to select that as much as possible, that should be pretty good. So that's pretty much the legs, so those should be deleted now. So it's mostly just a frog body. It looks like that pretty much worked. I guess I figured when we put it on the grunt, maybe we could delete the rest of this stuff, because that'll give us the ability to make a neck out of that stuff just in case. So here's like our frog head, and it's still animated. We could go back to the grunt, and the key is the best way to do this is the file import. I think I showed that in a previous video. So we're just going to file import here from the actual frog, from the workspace, and that should bring in the frog. So we have the frog, and we're just going to stick them on the grunt. So in just a few moments here, it'll pop up the pop-up. It'll give us the option of importing the one thing and the other thing. There's just a little bit of a lag while it loads that for us. So it's on its way. It's chugging away. Someday we're going to have to get rid of that lag. I'm going to have to fix the code so it doesn't lag, but at this very moment, it hasn't been fixed yet, so there's still some work to do. Here we go, importing frog into Grunt. Now, when we do this, I guess what we might want to do, actually, if we import in timescale, that's probably fine. I don't know what to do with all these cinematic things, so I guess I kind of figure we could just select them to go with stand, but mostly all the stands will probably align with stand. You know, you could put stand var1 into some of the stands to try to make them interesting. And maybe we could put walk in the text so that the walk where he opens his mouth would kind of look fitting for that. So yeah, that ought to pretty much work, I think. Now, as far as the way that these things animate, we could just go in the frog and we could find, where's the frog's head, right? Because somewhere, here he has bone head, which is attached to neck bind, which is attached to bone chest. And we can tell it instead link to the grunt's bone chest, so that it'll be the frog head is mounted on the grunt head. That should be pretty good, but we're keeping frog animations, so I didn't click leave all in this bone tab over here. Yeah. So we got that, and then we got the frog geosets, which are mostly good. I didn't check if the frog had anything we don't want. It might have some geosets we don't want. What do we got? So we got like a frog, bones, frog, bone. You know, that's kind of okay, really. It does have frog bones. It has a lot of frog bones. What's this thing? It's not clear to me what that is. Maybe it's part of the bones, but maybe not. Probably like frog insides. So as far as that, 5 and 6. So 1, 4, 5, and 6 are like the main body. Okay, and everything else is bones. Well, that's good to know. So we could make them share with the grunt. Like his geoset 1 is his body. And as far as the bones, I think those are down here in probably something like 37. Yeah, 37 is bones. So we have 37 are the bones, and 34 are interior stuff. Innards, I guess. So it looks like the bottom 3 on the frogs are innards. So that would be 34, 37, and 1 are the geosets from the grunt that we're going to use as a source of visibility. So basically, on the frog, and this is 1 and 4. 1, 4, 5, 6. These guys will all take from geoset 1 on the grunt. And we're going to uncheck favor original when combining. That's kind of nonsense, but what that's saying to do is we'll use grunt animation information for this visibility instead of frog animation visibility information. And I think that's just hopefully going to make these things work a little bit more smoothly. We'll put those on 35, and we'll put these bottom 3 on grunt 34. And that thing about use grunt animation visibility data, let's actually just uncheck that on all of them so that they'll all be grunt data. So I think that'll work. I don't know. It might not work. There might be something that goes wrong. It happens. But let's find out. So here's our grunt. All right. And there's a little frog head down there, but obviously it's in the wrong place. So we need to move it. We need to move it up. We need to move it on the grunt head. So we're going to hide the grunt for a second here. Select this frog head and put it up there. That ought to be pretty good. So you can see initially that perhaps it is a mistake on my part that I did not make the entirety of the frog link to the grunt, right? I linked his head, but I didn't link the back of it that we would probably want to use to make a neck. So for that, we can still do it, but I think we just want to go in there and like manually link it or something. Let's see. And then I guess when he's walking, does that work? Yeah, this part looks good. The head part looks good. The rest of it, not so good. So yeah, I think basically what we need to do is we need to find this back part of the frog, and we need to see if we can figure out where that cuts off, which is probably easier said than done. Let's see if we can link it to the back of the grunt. I guess it looks like it cuts off where the hole is. So if I could just go in here. And the other thing we probably don't care about are the frog bones. So let's just start with this stuff, right? If we can figure where is the hole from where the leg used to be, which I think is right about here. So basically around there, everything up to there, probably. So this is most of it, but not all of it, right? If I lift that high in the sky so we can see it, you can see we got most, but not all of it. And one little red thing that's down near the rest of him. So it looks like we got part of like the tongue or something. Guess that's that right there. So this has this whole sort of roundabout opening. And that's kind of what I was thinking, is we want to get around the outside of this. And then basically if you just right click and you say reassign matrix, it'll give us a pop-up, should in a moment here give us a pop-up, which will give us the option to actually link all of this stuff to the Grunt's chest node, which will make significantly less of this stuff broken. So you can see it's a lot better, but there's still part of it that's not good. Yeah, so now we just got to find that part, which is just like some stuff that the back of the head is linked to. Might be these and this. Maybe we could even leave the others selected so I can still see them. That and probably that. Maybe, I don't know. Let's try these. Well, I got a new idea. Let's take what I have right now. We'll run that reassign matrix function on it again to link it to the bone chest of the grunt. So we added a few points. And then I was thinking, does this stuff around the back of the head still have an issue? Because it kind of looks like this stuff needs to link to probably just the frog's neck, which is linked to the grunt now because we linked it. So yeah, we'll just go down here to frog neck. These things are a little bit more complicated and Reforged than what I invented these features for. So yeah, that helps a lot, but isn't everything. Looks like there's something ahead of that. If we slow this down, right there at the head of the frog, there's something that's not moving correctly with this. So it might be these like little forehead things. We could probably even just reassign that to the frog's neck and head. That's the grunt head. But I was kind of thinking of frog head. And you can actually assign it to the average of motion between two other things. So I was thinking that ought to help to have it between frog head and frog neck. Try to clear that up. Yeah, so now it's just the stuff off of the bottom that's sticking up there, which would seem to be where the frog has this opening in his head there. Let's see. I was going to try to use view selected matrices function, but it actually doesn't work right now. Let me see if I move that outward. Is this the one that... Yeah, this is part of the thing that is the problem. Maybe we could just go up here and sort of see these lower frog things. Then we can try to reassign matrix on those, and we'll get closer and closer to having everything in the frog just be linked to the grunt head. There used to be an easier way to do this in my tool, but some of the easier ways aren't working. So there's like frog head. So that ought to make a little less of the problem stuff. There is still some problem stuff. I guess it would be really ideal if I could just select the thing that was the problem, but there just isn't currently a button to do that. It's probably this stuff, that'd be my guess. I don't know. Does it seem right? It's probably not that. Maybe these. Whatever this is attached to, some of that stuff. It's pretty unfortunate reassign matrix takes so long to pop up. I really should fix that. Then I guess if you go to the eyeball, below the eyeball, like right about here, there's this interesting pattern of stuff, and it just kind of looks like between these, one of these things is not linked correctly to like neck and head. I'm not entirely sure which one, so let's just try all of them. We scroll down here and see if we can link to neck and head. Neck and head of this thing. No, I got the wrong ones. Something connected to the lower portions. Is it this? I'm not sure it is that, really. So, it looks so almost good. We just gotta find these little floating points. That's the problem. And I'm not sure which ones they are. Oh yeah, the other thing to check that's pretty important is to check the other levels of detail, actually, because there can be things wrong on those that isn't wrong on the original, but it looks like we're lucking out. That it's pretty much the same across all three of them. So that's good. It's almost too much the same. Let's freeze them for a second. Do we have... Okay, we do have levels of detail on the frog, so that's good. You definitely want that to work correctly. Otherwise, you'll just have other weird problems. But yeah, the back of this stuff in his neck there is still really messed up. Let's see, like, what is connected to this stuff, you know? I really need a better tool for this. That's really the problem, right? It shouldn't be hard. It should be fairly straightforward. That we could just tell this thing Anything that's linked to the other parts of the frog will instead link to the chest of our guy. It just currently isn't doing that, and it needs to be doing that. So that right there, what is that? Is that part of the problem? I'm not even sure which one that's on. Okay, it's on level of detail 3. It's not on the others. I just did Control Z on it again. So this is part of the problem, is that we've got all these different levels of detail to work with, and it's hard to find where's the thing that we really want to work with here. But it's in there. It's in there somewhere. That basically some of these lower portions need to get fixed. I guess anything that's not some of that interior stuff. If I could really just pick out the hole in the head there, like anything below that, we could really, yeah, I really wonder if we could do that. If we just drag through here, and then, okay, that tool still doesn't work. We just deselect this part. All that stuff right there. What if I just stick all of that onto Grunt chest again? How much better will it be? Ah, a lot better. Now the only thing that's a problem is like 1 pixel inside of right there. It's basically something deep in there. There's probably like this one or something. This one or this one. One of these deep in there. Darn it, it wasn't that one. Okay, I really need a way to go from what we see here. Just click that point and have it select in the other view. Oh, it's on the upper side. It's the upper side of the opening. Okay, so he has this opening in him. It's like one of these. That seems crazy. Let's just go to all of these and just link them all to something good. All right, how about that? Really, it still didn't work. I was wondering if it was a different level of detail or something. So it's actually ahead of those then. It's like up here. This one? Maybe it's this one. You would have thought I got that one already, right? Apparently not. It should really probably be on frog neck down here. But obviously I'm not entirely sure. There. It's more down where it should be. So we have this grunt with this frog head, and then when I tell him to walk, it becomes abundantly clear that it's still not really fixed. Part of it is still wrong. But which part? That's the key question. Right? A bunch of stuff on his head is still stretching out to above and behind him. So for that, we need to try to figure out, I just really need a better tool for this. I really do. I just had an idea. Probably won't work, but it's worth a thought. We know that what we want to move around would be something on, let's see, the bone chest that was added. This is our part that's good, and this stuff is all the part that's bad. So if I hide the part that's good, and now we only see the part that's bad, I can use this T-pose thing. And this basically lets me drag these around. And it's supposed to move the corresponding thing of whatever's linked to them. Doesn't work though, that's right, because all the way the animations are linked between models and nodes is different in Reforged, and so I have like two systems in my code, and that one runs on the old system, of course. I didn't think of that, so that's kind of a problem. Yet somewhere here there exists a significant source of a problem. And it really just looks like the bottom of this opening that we cut open. Which is interesting because you'd think that was all this. I guess it's this stuff. Now we wait again for me to run the pop-up. So the reason this thing lags so much is because it was made for little tiny models, and then now Reforged models have a huge number of parts, and it's trying to render the model in every single one of these little images down here. And it's just doing it in a way that wastes a lot of time. So I mean, I just need to fix the code on that, right? So I got some of it, but I didn't get all of it. This is the right place to look, though. Question becomes, what is this connected to? Looks like it's connected to this and this. This and this, which I was pretty sure I already touched. Some of that and that, I suppose. Basically all this business. We could just stick it all on, for now, the grunt chest, unless that it really becomes a problem. Things are getting better. Now we just have that thing that's stretching, which is like inside another step. I didn't really want to go in that far because I'm pretty sure it'll affect the way that it opens its mouth. But let's try it. Reassign this. We could probably put it on frog head down here. Frog head. Not really sure that that worked. Kind of looks like it didn't. I really need a way that I could just click this right here in that exact frame and call it a day. Since I can't do that, I guess we could go in the animation thing and we could try to see. Oh yeah, never mind, we can't. You can also see in the animation thing that we still have the jumping frog animation information, which we really want to get rid of. It would really be nice to get rid of that. So that's another thing that we could do. Let's start with that. If we actually just get rid of the animated jumping frog, maybe that'll just fix the problem. That's pretty much this whole thing right here. So we'll just delete that. It might break stuff. It might not. Let's find out. Let's see. We're going to save this as Frogman. Okay. Did it save the file? It appears to have saved the file of Frogman. Let's try to open the file. Maybe deleting that will just fix everything, because we didn't even want it to have that to begin with. But I don't know. All right, Frogman. What happened? It changed, but it didn't really fix it. Now it's bent downward instead of... Oh, that's really interesting. It's bent downward even when it's not animated, indicating that it is actually wrong, that my previewer is just actually wrong. So obviously there's stuff wrong with my software there, but in general, I was wondering if that was the spike downward. Is this true that if I just... Well, no, we can't see it on here. There's a lot of missing features in this tool. A lot of missing features. All right. So we have this little frog head. Okay, here's the little frog head. Somewhere in it, around where the hole is, but not quite, more behind the head, there's stuff that's broken. So that actually helps us. Now we know that it's behind the thing that formulates the eyeball. Like, what is this thing anyway? Oh, there's like nose stuff. Okay. It's almost like it's these two. Let's try these two. And this. And we'll assign them to the frog's head. And maybe that'll do it. Because they're definitely close to the right thing, even if they're not the right thing. So this is biggest bonehead of the frog down here. I think that's that. Okay, so that repaired one part of it. And now we just have a little bit more below that. And whatever is below that, pretty much. So that would be this right here. So that was good. So we'll do a reassign here on this to bonehead down here. And we'll click accept. And now we got rid of the giant cavity portion. It's just a frogman. Here you go. Frogman. And when he walks, he opens his frogman mouth. And when he attacks, he opens his frogman mouth. There we go. That's pretty much how you'd want it to be. Cool. So let's actually save this as Frogman 2, since Frogman 1 was kind of broken. We could even put that into the world editor. I was over here just playing around in the world editor. But yeah, we could just even make like a new map. We could put it in that map. Check it out. All right, so this is the asset manager. So in the asset manager, we're just going to import Frogman 2. And then let's save the map for good measure. You probably don't need to, but let's do it anyway. Frogman test. There's the Frogman test. And now we can go to a Grunt. And we can tell him he is the Frogman. Over here, Frogman 2. And we can put some of those around. Melee units. There you go. Bring up this little thing, and let's try it out. Okay. Oh yeah, I turned off game sound earlier, so we probably want that back, I guess. Sure.
Doctor.
Here's our
Master.
Frogman. Now you can see they're there.
Yes.
It's pretty much working.
Zug. Swobu.
What it doesn't have, of course,
Doctor.
is
Dabu.
a couple things.
Doctor.
But in general, it's working. Yeah, it doesn't open its mouth to talk
Master.
down there.
Zug.
You could conceivably
Swobu.
fix that if you
What you want?
worked on it long enough. But here's kind of just like how to get the basics.
Zug. Doctor.
Yeah.
What is it? Yes. Master.
And you can see it shows the
Doggo.
frog head. So it looks like it has a camera. I mean, one thing you could do would be to
Yes.
just move the camera that points to its face. So I mean, we could do that, right? Basically, if you want to do that, you just go in here to all this stuff, and you turn this on so you can see him, and you turn on the camera, and you say, okay, camera, I see that the camera's there, but it's sideways. So what we want to do is just move it a bit. Maybe make it further away so you see more of his head, right? And then you save that as Frogman 3. Put that in your map, and you might be good to go. Maybe it'll start to really look good with that camera over there. Frogman 3. I guess the other thing you could do if you want to be really special, right, is that in Stand Victory, well, okay, Stand Victory I think was the only stand where I made him open his mouth, if I recall. Yeah, most of the other stands he doesn't. But let's say, we have this animation where it opens its mouth. What if we wanted to actually do that in the portrait animations, right? So if you want the portrait to look really good, you can go to Stand and you can duplicate it and call it Portrait 1. Portrait 1. And then duplicate Portrait 1 and say, okay, I really want Portrait Talk 1, where he actually moves his mouth to talk. And you just have that in the model, right? And then the key is, once you do that, that you want to actually import from, basically just, you could do import from unit, I think should work. And just choose the neutral frog, right? Just click on neutral and import from the frog. And say that we want to import the frog's walking animation onto this guy's mouth so that he opens his mouth to talk in Portrait Talk. And you'll see how this works in a second. It's just loading a little bit. Loading a little bit. We're almost there. Just chugging away at a loading. Okay, it loaded on the wrong monitor. Here we go. So we have this. we don't want any geometry. We don't want that stuff. We just want to go to animations and say that in walk, we're going to transform whatever happens in walk to instead happen in portrait talk. And that way, this thing about where it opens and closes its mouth, we're just going to import that same animation in and stick it on there. So mostly, I think that would just be, let's see, like head and jaw and maybe some of this other lip, tongue stuff. Upper lip, eye, eyelid, eyebrow. And just get all that motion to pre-existing, which means to like combine it. And everything before it we can leave out, and everything after it we can leave out. So yeah, we do that, and then pretty much on head and neck, we need to make sure it picks the correct head, because there's still head data for the old grunt head that we didn't bother to delete, and we just need to make sure we get the right one of those. Yeah, so for pretty much all of these, actually, we have to re-click this, I think. It's because the grunt has his own mouth and face, and it would have animated basically the animation nodes for the deleted grunt face instead of the animation nodes for our frog. So we got that. Upper lip 2, upper lip 2, upper lip. Some of them are done automatically if the grunt didn't have them. You can see that too. But not all of them are done that way. Okay. Eyebrow, mid, INR, OTR, I'm not even sure what that is. Mid eyebrow. Okay, there we go. Because the grunt probably has those same components of the animated face, so it was previously trying to animate the grunt face. Great. So this is going to make him actually sort of, open his frog face in portrait talk, I believe. Let's check it out. So that one the import should be testable just in a little preview over here. So there's stand 1, right? Now here's portrait 1. It's the same. He's just standing there. And portrait talk is he opens and closes his frog mouth. So it works, but it does seem to have a couple of issues, namely that you can see some green clipping inside of his head there. So for that, we just need to go to the grunt and kind of hide this, right? There's kind of like a little bit of grunt head left. So we have that. We have, let's see, 11 contains that same thing. It looks like 13 and maybe that one have some of that same stuff. So knowing that we've covered this stuff over pretty well, you could just delete it, and that'll probably fix. When we view it. When he opens his mouth, you won't see anything in there, right? It's just frog stuff in there. Great. So we've got that fixed. Now the other thing is, obviously, he's opening and closing his mouth really slowly. So this is because it uses the length of the grunt animation. But if we use this little animation length changer, you can go to portrait talk and you can say, okay, let's make this like a 0.9 second thing. And then that way, he'll open and close his mouth pretty fast. So this is pretty good. This is like Frogman 4 we could save here. The one other thing you usually see in the portrait is you usually see the color behind them of like who they are or what they are. So for that, if we really want to try to bring that in, we can click on the grunt and it should open up. The default models that Blizzard makes, they make those backgrounds as a separate model. But here you go. So like here's the grunt has like a background behind him on his stuff. And so what we can basically do is just import that giant background into Frogman, and it'll be back there behind the Frogman, behind his head, hopefully looking pretty good. So yeah, basically for that, we can just import from workspace grunt portrait, which is a separate model in their stuff, but it's okay if we just stick it all in one model. It makes it simpler on us, usually. It's just not how the original models were made. They're made as two separate models, but we don't have to do that. So in a moment here, it'll bring up our pop-up again, and we'll be able to actually just bring in that background. The other thing that it might help us to do, so here's here's this thing. Let me go all the way to the bottom, I guess, because we want to look at these grunt portrait things. Is to sort of ask ourselves the question: can we tell which part of the grunt portrait is portrait BG? And it looks like we can. It says portrait BG right there. So we can actually leave everything here except 13, which is the portrait BG. Primarily, I don't think we need animations on this stuff. There does seem to be, portrait background. So we could just make sure we import portrait background and nothing else. So that all gets kicked out. We bring in portrait background animation. I guess if you want, we could import its actual animation data. I don't think that's very necessary. But it's there, so sure, we could do that. The rest of the stuff doesn't really matter, except we want to say existing animation not visible, which means in the Grunt's original animations you won't see this portrait background. So that should be good, hopefully. Now it's just loading a little bit. So you can see the portrait background is there, but it's not there on stand. So in Frogman, only on portrait and portrait talk, he's got a background behind him. So there you go. There's our Frogman. Let's save it as Frogman 5, and let's try it in the game. Hopefully it'll look pretty good. I don't have a very good camera previewer on there yet, so it's a little bit hard to say if the background camera will actually look good or not. But let's give it a try. All right. Got that. We're starting up the game. Bring it over here. Loading up. Awesome. I'm gonna actually click that so it's even bigger for us.
Master? Yes?
Oh, we didn't switch it to use Frogman 5. We imported it, but we didn't switch it. Sorry, my bad on that one. So basically, we just go in here. There's just an oversight that we didn't change this to be Frogman 5. So, right, we got to go in here and click Frogman 5. And then that should fix that so that things will be good. Start the game again. And here we go. Starting it up. Here's our Frogman.
Master? Swobu?
Yeah, it's not
Yes.
perfect.
Huh?
It's definitely not perfect.
Double.
And I don't really see the background behind it.
Zug Zug?
But
Loktar?
it works.
Zug Zug? Swobu? Loktar? Dabu? Zug Zug? Swobu? Loktar? Yes? Swobu? Dabu?
I guess something else we could investigate with these Frogmen
Huh?
is what does it look like if we kill a Frogman?
What you want?
Let's try killing
Time to die. Huh? What you want?
I
Yes?
saw the frog's mouth open as he died. Now, I don't really see the frog stuff when he's dead there like it was supposed to have. So that looks like that didn't work correctly. But I think it probably looks fine. It just means you don't really see his head when he's dead, which I don't know. I don't really know if dead people need a head anyway. So, you know, if you want to tweak that, you could go and you could look at it and try to tweak it over time. But in general, I feel like it's pretty much
What you
working there.
want? Huh?
There's just got to be something about the visibility data of the
Yes.
and stuff that doesn't show up here like you'd want it to, you know. Yeah. In general, it looks like it worked, though.
Loktar? Yes?
Oh, this is really odd, actually. Now his face is gone.
What? What you want? Yes?
I don't
Master?
know why that was.
Swobu?
Maybe because the one died.
Huh? Zug Zug? Loktar? Dabu? Loktar?
Yeah, so I guess what you'd probably want to do is get that portrait background to show up. I'm not sure why it isn't. So we're at an angle about like that. I don't know, did we somehow end up, are we actually an angle that it isn't there, or is it too far away? I'm not really sure. Does kind of make you wonder. But I guess we could just move it. So there's the background plane. Here's the camera. It's not clear to me. Does this camera just lack distance? Or what's its deal? Why don't we see this giant background? Just behind it in the right direction. So we could do that. And also maybe move it closer. Because that'll increase the odds that we're going to see that thing. You know? It's like more visible. Yeah. Seems like that should help. And then I wonder, do we want to make him actually move his mouth faster? Or is that silly? Maybe that's silly. A little bit hard to say. You could do some tweaking on that, depending on what you actually want, you know? Let's go ahead and try Frogman 6. Try putting it in the game. It does make me wonder if we'd be better put to get a better camera on that thing. I don't know. Let's see, Frogman 6. We'll make the grunt. Use Frogman 6. Over here. Looks fine generally in the preview. We save and we test it. Let's give it a look. Let's see how it is. Did I bring that background close up enough that we can actually see the background? And if so, should we call it a success? And it's just part of your creative process, right? Depending on how much you care, how much time you want to spend on it, you can keep tweaking these things. Hopefully at some point,
Master?
the tool will be even better.
Swobu. Dabu.
Really looks like I don't
Doktar.
see that thing at all.
Swobu. Dabu.
And you know what? I might know why. Actually. It's probably because of this portrait camera thing. Not that one. Portrait background, excuse me. Because portrait background, this node, wherever that is probably doing something funny. So let's actually, we'll copy it. We'll make a copy. Control C, Control V. Delete the old one. And the copying process tends to not include animations. So now it's not animated, which means that if I reassign matrix to the new one, it won't move anymore. It was probably like moving or spinning around in some old way that isn't actually what we want or something like that. Now it won't. Oh wait, I hit the wrong button there. Yeah, I hit the wrong button there, sorry. Don't do that. Make sure that we click add when we actually do that. So I'm gonna get that pop up again. I'm gonna scroll down here to portrait background and just stick it on that. Great. And we'll save Frogman 7. This one's gonna be better than ever. I wonder. Although you'd think that if it did move, I'd see it here, but hard to say. Hard to say. There's probably some other reason it's not showing up. I just don't know what that other reason is. I don't know if it's like the camera target's too close. Does the camera need to have like the target be more out there, get some more distance on it? Maybe. All right, let's try it in the editor here. Frogman 7. Really would be good if we had a better tool for editing cameras. People have commented on that. If they're not wrong, it would really be better. So, you never know. Maybe we'll get to that point sometime here. But that's outside the scope of this video. Let me just test once more and see what we can see. We'll see where we're at. All right. Messed around with the camera.
Master?
Hey, we see the background here.
Yes?
But I did kind of wreck the camera.
Huh? Swobu. Dabu.
Yeah, so you could keep
Zug,
playing
zug.
with that. As you can see, you can move around the
Zug,
camera
zug.
and the camera target and all that other stuff. Try to get it
Swobu.
where and how you
Yes.
want it to be.
Zug zug.
But
Swobu. Doktar.
yeah,
Dabu.
in general, I think it seems like it's working. And
Master?
that's pretty much how I would go about doing that.
Swobu.
There you go. We even have like the
Uh-huh.
reflectivity and stuff
Zug zug.
on the Frogman.
Swobu.
So yeah, hope you have a good one.